Oh man, I got a new HD camera and I got a shave now.
Ah.
There's that. It's always nice when there's a paper towel roll on the floor behind me too. You can tell things at Hockey Buzz are just completely out of control right now. Go ahead, Russ, while I clean up my space.
Okay, so cool thing here, but Earl Thomas the other day breaks his leg in the game. He gives the middle finger to the Seattle Seahawks, the team that, a few years before that signed him to a guaranteed contract of $25 million, and he was making $8 million this year. Now, I get that he's a UFA, but at the end of the day, I can't believe people coming to the aid of Earl Thomas like, well, contracts aren't guaranteed, and that's why he's all mad. And I'm thinking, he just 2 years ago, he made $25 million. I can't feel bad for that.
Yeah, see, I can, because this is why I hate the NFL and why they suck. Because, okay, when a player gets hurt in most other professional sports, the contracts are guaranteed. In the NFL, there's performance bonuses. There's a number of other factors. And they were playing hard line with him like Pittsburgh was playing hard line with Le'Veon Bell, because he's one of those guys who's a veteran guy who's at that middle road age where teams don't want to sign him to long-term deals because they're afraid that they're going to tail off. And the player is thinking about himself in terms of, I want to get guaranteed money. I want to get as much term as I possibly can. They played hardball with him. There was talk about him being traded to the Dallas Cowboys for a second-round pick, and that never panned out because apparently the Cowboys were willing to sign him long-term and Seattle wasn't. And so we know Seattle's basically going through like a systematic rebuild after being a Super Bowl contender. Most of the players, except for Russell Wilson and a few others, guys like Sherman, are gone. I mean, don't get me wrong. Do I think he should have given the finger? No, that's stupid. But do I understand the plight of these players? They're trying to get their money before they have the blown ACL. Which
okay, but here's the thing. But he did. He got 25 guaranteed plus and that included the 2014-15 season. Then in 2016, he got another $6 million. And then he got paid $8 million each of the last 2 years.
But I'm talking about the new deal. I'm talking about the new contract.
Well, this is a contract he signed in 2014, and it's up this year. But all I'm saying is he's managed to make $41 million off of it. I can't feel bad for a guy that makes $41 million. If he gets a broken leg, he gets a broken leg. I mean, Le'Veon Bell is nuts for doing what he's doing because he's floating this story that, yes, he's coming back week 7. Like, we all knew that. Like, that's not a big shock.
Well, no, I thought he was going to push it to the end because it's 10.
No, he's going to come back week 7 when they have a bye or something. So this way he can practice and, sort of get ready. But the idea is, again, he's floating the idea that 4 or 5 teams want him in free agency. They might, but they're not going to want to pay him $30 million. They're not going to do it. They don't care if he's the best running back in the NFL. There's a lot of other running backs to go around.
This is my suggestion. Live a happier life. Don't watch football. Watch hockey, watch baseball, screw football because football.
Yeah, you're probably right, Mike. I mean, football. Yeah, I mean, I watch it only once. I mean, I played it a lot. I was a quarterback growing up.
Yeah. I mean, look, I watch it, but it's just the idea is that I can't understand the militant attitude of the guy when he's pocketed all this money. Now, if you're
I agree with you.
If you're a player that you were trying to sign your first deal and they lowballed you and then you had that happen and it was the end of your career, okay, fine. If this was the end of Earl Thomas's career, he made a lot of money.
Well, hey, all I know is that there was a certain player on a certain team that I was a viewer of that made tens of millions of dollars. And when it came up to him being a UFA, the team that was trying to trade him said, go away, go to someplace that's going to have a chance to win a Stanley Cup. Come back. Do us a favor. We've paid you millions of dollars, and he wouldn't waive his no trade clause, and he ended up leaving anyway and playing for another team. So to that player, I don't have any sympathy, and he has, I don't know. I question his loyalty to the team.
Here's an example. I'll bring it back to Philly. So Carson Wentz signed a deal that had a $17 million signing bonus, and it was worth $26 million guaranteed with an average annual salary of $7 million.
Yeah, but Carson Wentz is 3 years into his career.
Right. Listen to my point.
Okay.
If Carson Wentz were to break his leg and be out for the rest of his career, I still don't feel bad for him. That's massive money. This is not like we're talking about a guy making $1 million like in the NHL.
I mean, you gotta have some sympathy for the passion that these guys have. I mean, to play the sport, right? I mean, come on. I'm not saying you should feel bad for them. Bad is the wrong word to use, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
you gotta feel for them a little bit. I mean,
sympathy for his misfortune. I mean, honestly, we don't know whether Earl Thomas will ever be the same player again after breaking his leg. He's a defensive back, so speed is everything. I mean, it could be the end of his career, and that's why I think he was pissed off, because the Seattle Seahawks were not going to give him a contract. They refused to trade him unless it was for a value they thought, and now his career is in limbo. So do you think he has a right to be pissed off? Damn,
no,
Skippy.
They paid him handsomely.
No, we're talking about the new deal. We're not talking about what they did pay him. We're talking about what they could pay him. You know, that's where it is.
They asked him to live out his contract. And the one thing about the NFL is you could say it's a horrible league because they don't have guaranteed contracts, but it's also a horrible league because many of the players don't want to live up to their contract, and they want their teams to rip them up halfway through it.
Sure. That's true. I mean, when you have Julio Jones asking for a renegotiation of his contract with 2 or 3 years left, that's insanity. You know, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen, and the reason that doesn't happen in the NHL is because you can't start renegotiating a contract until the final year. It's in the CBA. Nothing is in the CBA in terms of contracts because they're not guaranteed in the NFL.
Right.
So anyway, let's get
right.
hockey.
Let's move on. Here we go.
Spirited pre-show, as
always. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018.
I'm Gritty. Oh, excuse me. I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is a podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And can we talk Grady for 1 second? Because I must talk to him about it for 1 second, because this to me is I wrote a little article on it, but I tried to avoid it. But this is absolutely one of the most interesting sociological experiments ever in the history of sports. And Russ and I witnessed it firsthand.
We did.
Gritty is 8 days old. Okay, understand that. This was 1 week ago that he was introduced on a Monday. We were at the game that Monday night where the fans booed him mercilessly off the, out of the arena. They would have chased him down and lynched him. I mean, they would have hung him.
Yeah.
This mascot could not have gone worse for the Flyers. They're panicking. They're freaking out. Calls were being made. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? We're 1 week later now, and apparently, on Thursday night, it wasn't at the game on Thursday night, but apparently, the game since then, Gritty is now the talk of the town. Is talking town, and people love him in the arena. And of course, he's nationally famous. He's been on every possible national show. And it's just, to me, this is very simple. It's like this is Philadelphia fans to the upteenth, and I say this with love in my heart, because I'm a Philadelphia fan myself. But the fact is that we can say we hate something, but if you say we hate something, screw you. And that's in the second everybody else out there in LA and New York and all these other places started hating on Gritty became a Philadelphian.
I don't know. I still think Gritty has just run through the news cycle. I think.
You think he's going anywhere? He's the most famous mascot in sports right now.
Right, yeah, but you got to remember, he didn't even plan on falling down. That was just good luck.
But it all played into it. That's
what I'm saying.
Why he is so popular is he's so easy to mock. Yeah. And the more you mock him, the more Philadelphia fans take him in and say that he's our own.
Well, great. I mean, but in 2 weeks, he'll just be an ugly mascot with googly eyes.
I don't think so.
If Flyers start out 0-3, he'll be an ugly mascot with googly eyes, and they'll be back to hating him. Trust me.
You don't think that when they have the All-Star game now that he's going to be the mascot that everybody was going to want to see? I mean, it's in January still, I think. I mean, we don't talk about mascots ever, right? So I'm just saying that.
So if he makes it to the All-Star game, which I originally said he won't, and I'm sticking by that.
No, it's not a chance.
He'll be the enforcer in the All-Star game. Is that what you want?
He is absolutely.
He will be the mascot enforcer. Is that what you want?
Yeah, he's gonna play that role, and Philadelphia fans are eating it up like there's no tomorrow. I mean, it's fascinating to me. It's absolutely fascinating because I was there Monday, saw the hatred. Thursday, love, and the only difference in between there and then, everybody else hated on him. Okay. All right, moving on.
Yes.
Let's go. All right. I would like to get right into the teams today, but let's do a quick news thing because we have 3 teams we got to get to. And now that's how we do it. So let's go news first, Mike. Give us the update, latest and greatest.
Well, there were a number of waiver claims, and a few of them are not. We talked about some of the players placed on waivers yesterday, and the Sabres picked up Remy Ellie from the Dallas Stars. Now, I saw Ellie play in the Calder Cup final and didn't make a big impression on me. Sort of, I think he's probably just a 4th liner with the Sabres, but the Sabres sent Alex Nylander down and a couple other young players, so maybe he's just a sort of a stopgap fill-in type of player. We mentioned Dmitry Yaskin yesterday being waived by the Blues. He was picked up by the Capitals. And Russ, with the news that Devontae Smith-Pelly was like woefully out of shape. Now, I don't know if that means that he's, not going to be a scratch for a while, but I had heard he was sort of woefully out of shape coming into training camp. Yaskin is sort of like that, I think he's better than a 4th liner, but it's not a bad pickup for the Caps.
No, he's a good pickup because he skates well. He does a lot of those little things. He's not going to be a big scorer, but you could use him in different situations. He's not going to, he's safe. He's not a turnover machine. So for a team like that that's got the scoring that they do, he's fine for that. Remy Ellie is an interesting one because I think it's really more about Alex Nylander than them picking up Remy Ellie. And at 20 years old, Alex Nylander had great, expectations. And now he's literally just like any other prospect at 20 years old, like he is. This is the route that most prospects go when they're 20. They usually are in the AHL. Probably nobody saw that happening when Alex Nylander was drafted.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is. So, now this is up to Alex Nylander. This is, again, a situation where I don't blame the Sabres because this is about the player actually being a better player, being a player that plays a full 60 minutes. And that's what he needs to do. He has never done that yet.
No, but he did. Alex Nylander did play very well in training camp. And I think basically what they want to see is show us for 20 games in the AHL that you could do what you did in training camp, and we'll call you up. Because if they do call him up, they're going to play him with either Eichel or Mittelstadt. So, he's not going to be a 3rd, 4th line guy.
No.
We mentioned Sam Gagner yesterday. He cleared waivers. They sent him down to the AHL, which is a little bit. I'm not surprised he didn't get claimed with a contract over $3 million for this year and next year.
He's a great guy. He's a really good, gifted skater. He's a great skater. He still has some offense in his game, not a lot, but there's still things Sam Gagner could do. If we're talking about Dmitry Yaskin getting a job, certainly Sam Gagner could, but the contract's what's killing him.
Who should have grabbed him, and I don't understand this. I don't understand why they didn't, but it's Montreal. I really don't understand why Montreal wouldn't have grabbed him.
For sure.
He's a center. He he can play. He can create offense.
He's more played wing lately.
But he's really a center. He really is a center.
But the thing is, I think the problem is this is a little bit of the a Wade Redden situation. He's got another year on the contract. If it was $3.25 million and it was just this year, then maybe you get Vancouver to eat some of the money. Maybe a team isn't going to be scared off by taking a guy who's making $3 million on their payroll, but it's another year on top of that, and that's where I think teams are going to get scared off. Maybe he eventually gets traded, but I assume either Vancouver's going to take a contract back or take a haircut on the deal. So that's
Vancouver did it to make room for Goldobin and Leipzig. And I think that's smart. See, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other teams, like I've mentioned, the Rangers and other ones that say they're in a rebuild, don't show it.
Yeah.
This team is letting these guys who are not, young guys are, do what they can. Mike, the difference with Wade Redden is he was making like $6.5 million bucks and making more than like half the league.
Yeah. Now, that's true. Dale Weiss cleared waivers, has not been sent down according to the waiver wire here. Rocco Grimaldi got waived by Nashville. These are guys we talked about yesterday.
So Weiss cleared waivers but wasn't sent down.
Correct.
So are they thinking
as of yet?
So this must be a situation where they've asked him to trade him, and if they can't, then he's going to decide if he wants to play in the AHL or not play at all. Is that what we're thinking?
I would say
maybe.
Now the one that gained the most attention. Oh, but before we get to that, Russ, the great free agent signing of Jan Kovac by the New York Islanders, this KHL wunderkind who comes over, he gets sent down to Bridgeport.
Preseason, he was.
Why not? I mean, why not? Why not? I mean,
I'm sure he came from the KHL so he could play in Bridgeport.
No, he didn't. And this is the thing. And Lou Lamoriello is saying that he's sending him down there so he can have more playing time. I'm sorry, but if I look at the New York Islanders roster, I can't possibly find playing time. Here's the funny thing. The unspoken thing on this is he's saving half of his contract by sending him down, a little more than half. Mm-hmm. And that's something where, you know what? Right now the Islanders are sort of in this save mode. They've got so much cap space. It's crazy. Jan Kovar is probably going to play down there for like 2 weeks and then go back. Like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I mean,
that guy from last year, from Vegas.
Shipachyov.
Yeah, it really feels like that a lot.
It could very well be that. I mean, if he's down there for a couple weeks and then they say we're calling you up, then he'll stick around. If it's into November and December and he's still on a bus going to Syracuse, he's going back to Russia. So the other prospect that was a little surprising, it came down this morning, was Henrik Borgstrom being sent down by Florida. And I guess it was a situation, Russ, where they didn't want him playing third, fourth line in the NHL. They wanted him to rather play, top minutes in the AHL and gain a little strength before he.
Yeah, and I think that's fair because Borgstrom hasn't played pro yet. I mean,
I did a lot of research on that.
He played a little last year, and so let him play more. Start off with at a lesser talent level and see. And if he works his way through, he's another guy. 30, 40 games, you can call him up. What did he get? Like 4 games last year, something like that.
Yeah, less than 10.
I did some research on this one because I found out about this yesterday, and I was talking to some people in Florida, try to see what was going on with it, and I got the really strong impression that this is just a very temporary thing, and that Talon thinks he's not quite ready for the pro lifestyle, and he wants him to sort of get the idea of like being around that, more. And learning sort of how to be a professional athlete, away from college.
I think there's something to that. I mean, when you come from a college environment, you're not traveling. You're traveling a little bit. You're traveling on weekends, but then you have that home base.
And just being paid and professional in the whole 9 yards of the pressure, and now playing with bigger guys and playing with more experienced people in the AHL and stuff like that. All that's going to play into it a lot. I think he's going to be back up.
Yeah.
Or so, and I think he'll be back up for the rest of the season. And I had a lot of Florida fans who were texting me and emailing me yesterday. They were freaking out about this, and I just I said to them, listen, this is the case where you really have to trust Dale Talon, because Talon
he knows this stuff. He
knows this stuff when it comes to prospects. And if Talon thinks he needs some time in the AHL, give him some time in the AHL, because Talon's not a guy who will just send a guy to the AHL for the hell of it. He will play young. He will bring a young player up if that young player is ready.
And Talon's got the flexibility with his roster where, I mean, Bukestad played mostly on the wing last year, but he is a center. He has played center. So if they send Borgstrom down, he can just move Bukestad to the middle if they want to. And then once Borgstrom comes back up, he can move back to the wing. So he's got that flexibility.
Yeah.
So what have they done with Owen Tippett? Has he stayed? Has he gone?
I think he got sent down.
Okay. So you see, Tippett 2 years ago was real close. Yeah. But Talon was like, you know what? And so, he's doing the right thing. I got no problem.
Yeah.
Now
that doesn't he doesn't see GMs that won't sit out there and say, oh, we're not going to ever play a guy like that, in this situation. I mean, it sounds like from what I was gathering, they're still going to keep Bukestad on the wing though.
Okay.
And play, their centers will be obviously Barkov, Trocheck, Trocheck, Malgin and McKenzie, I guess.
Oh, so they're moving Malgin. Okay.
Yeah, for now.
Now the news of the day regarding waivers, and I don't think that this was expected. I think they expected to lose one of them, not both of them. Was Toronto losing both Calvin Pickard to the Flyers and Curtis McElhinney to Carolina. Now, I wrote about this in my blog on Hockey Buzz, and this is the thing. This might be a temporary situation, and I was telling Russ this, because both players, both teams that picked up McElhinney and Pickard are in sort of stopgap situations, yep. especially Carolina. Scott Darling is out for a couple weeks. When Darling is back, Scott Darling is not going to be placed on waivers, and neither is Peter Mrazek. So more than likely, they're not carrying 3 goaltenders, and McElhinney will probably find his way back on waivers again. And Toronto can reclaim him and place him in the AHL if that happens. And I would be shocked if they don't, because they have no experience, not one NHL start in the minor leagues, with Kazimir Kaskasuo and Eamon McAdam as their third and fourth goalies in their organization. Pickard, Ross, you can talk about that. I mean, there's a chance that he could be placed on waivers again, but you think that this might be a keeper for the Flyers?
I do, because I think, again, it's a shame with Alex Lyon that he had that injury at the Barclays, but I think the Flyers were just looking for a reason to maybe send Neuwirth down. Aside from him always getting injured, which he started the year injured, I think they're probably tired of that. And I think Pickard, who's a really good positional goalie, if he with good size, good enough size, was he like 6'2", I think?
No, he's like 6 foot.
6 foot. Okay, but he still, he plays pretty big. I mean, he doesn't flop around. He really doesn't panic. If he does well, I don't see why they wouldn't send Neuwirth down and hope that someone claims him on a $2.5 million salary. Yeah, that's what I think would happen.
Now, this is the situation, and this is just my read on the situation with the Leafs. They cut down to 23 yesterday, and they kept 8 defensemen, and one of the defensemen is Martin Marincin. Martin Marincin is not an NHL defenseman, and more than likely, once William Nylander signs, they will send him down so they can clear the space for Nylander. They could have kept 3 goaltenders, but my theory is if they kept 3 goaltenders, including McElhinney and Sparks, Mike Babcock would basically do a Frankie Corrado and a Josh Levo and not play Sparks. And that I think Dubas wants Sparks to be played. That's why they only kept 2 goaltenders. Yeah. But Babcock was not enthralled, was not happy yesterday. At least he put a good face on it. He said, well, Sparks has earned his chance because of the history with the organization, but he was effusive in his praise of McElhinney because McElhinney played well for them last year. Yeah. And if they would have kept McElhinney there as the third goaltender, I think the third goalie would have been Sparks, and he wouldn't have seen a minute of time. Now he's forced to use him, but if he plays 2 or 3 bad games, you're going to have a pissed off Mike Babcock.
All right, so here's the thing. If I'm Mike Babcock, and clearly I'm not, he's not going to play Sparks at home, although he should against the Senators, because that's just hold on, Mike.
I'm just saying it's already been announced. The first start is going to be for Sparks will be in Chicago. He's from the Chicago area.
I would do.
Well, that's what they're doing.
I would play him against the Senators. I would never play him against Chicago in Chicago. I think that is much tougher. He could play him. He could have played him against the Red Wings, but of course he probably doesn't want to look bad against the Red Wings. This is going to be Sparks' only start, I think, through the month. I think this is it. And
that's why maybe they did this, because maybe they thought that they would be able to reclaim one of these other goaltenders off of waivers, or maybe go out and get themselves a goaltender if Sparks isn't ready. But the thing is, if Sparks isn't ready, you're going to have to place him on waivers, or he's going to have to be injured to go on injured reserve. I mean, the organization has confidence in him. They want to see what they've developed him for 7 years. They want to see what he is. Yeah. I've seen injury problems and inconsistency with Sparks, and God forbid if Frederik Andersen gets hurt, because then they're in real trouble.
Yeah, they're in serious trouble, and that actually played into my when I'm trying to predict where Toronto is going to finish. Actually,
we'll talk about that.
Talk about that when we get to it. But I still think that is an issue. But let's move on to this now, and we will move on to
one more small story.
Yesterday,
Seattle.
No, not Seattle. Actually, no. Yesterday the Rangers had like a town hall with Glenn Sader and Jeff Gorton and David Quinn, and so of course, this comes on the heels of Elias Anderson being named the winner of the Lars Eric Soberg Award for being the best rookie in camp, except he's not with the team. And so, of course, that's the first question that gets asked by the media at that event. And it's just like, I mean, again, I am chuckling over it because it's just such a Rangers thing to do that this is the case. So, take it for what it is.
Yeah, and just briefly, everybody is in New York City for, I think it's the Board of Governors meeting, but the Seattle contingent is there. And, I mean, this is the worst kept secret. I mean, Seattle's getting a team. We know they're getting a team. This is just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. But it's good, and it seems like it's a foregone conclusion. So we're going to have an expand. I think the only question right now is it 2021 or 21-22? That's going to be the only question.
Yeah, that I think it's 21-22. Yeah. That's just what I've heard so far. I don't know. Anything's possible. I think that's still a little bit open.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, what do you think? Okay. Well,
I think timeline-wise is what he means. That
I mean timeline-wise.
Okay. Yeah.
No, not if they're going to get
a little open.
It is. Timeline is open. Yes.
Not if they're going to get a team. No, I'm with you on that. That's for sure. That's definitely. I mean, they're going to get a team. It's just a matter of when.
And I'm dying to find out.
I don't think they're going to rush it because I think they've had so much good. I think I had such a good experience with Vegas. I don't think they're going to rush this one.
Now I'm just dying to find out what the name is. The Seattle Sasquatch or
I like Sasquatch.
I like the Seattle Millionaires. That would be great.
I think Sasquatch is awesome.
That would be good.
Or the Seattle Buzz, because of coffee. And I heard that too.
Buzz. I like that.
Someone told me that too because it's a coffee area, big coffee area.
I mean, it could be the Seattle Slugs because it rains so much they get so many slugs.
Yeah.
Hockey Buzz.
Yeah. I know, it'd be funny. Sasquatch is it's such a big thing up there, though. I just recently was in Seattle this year, and it's funny. We were hiking on the trail, and there was a big sign that said, do not feed the deer, the bears, or the Sasquatch.
Right, and of course it's real. Eck thinks it's real.
Yeah, and of course their mascot will be a Sasquatch, and it'll kick Gritty's ass.
Yeah, Bigfoot is real, Russ. You know that one.
I know.
If 10 seasons of finding Bigfoot has told us anything, is that you can't find him, but he is real.
Yes. Don't you remember? Right. Andre the Giant was Bigfoot on the $6 Million Man.
True.
That's a great episode.
It is.
Definitely. He was terrible. Oh my God. Terrible. I watched that the other day. And there's like Bigfoot Returns too, where he fights the $6 Million Man and the $6 Million Woman too. That's great. There's great stuff there.
Yeah.
Please. The worst moment on that show was when Lee Majors was singing a love song to Lindsay Wagner. It made me want to cringe. Okay, let's go. Let's talk about the team preview.
All right.
Lee Majors sang the song on the Fall Guy, didn't he? For the
Yes, he did.
It wasn't half terrible. I mean, whatever.
No, I was too busy staring at Heather Thomas and anyway. All right, go.
Tampa. Let's talk about Tampa, shall we?
Yes.
The Tampa Bay Lightning. As I wrote today, the team most predicted to win the Stanley Cup over the last 5 years. I mean, It's incredible. Every year, more people pick Tampa to win the Stanley Cup than any other team. Notice this. This year, again, it's uncanny how many people think that Tampa is going to win the Stanley Cup again. They finished first, of course, in their division, but only by a single point over the Boston Bruins last year, and in what turned out to be a way closer battle than it looked like it was going to be. But Boston, didn't catch up, and that set up the Bruins for Maple Leafs first round fun series there. All right, the best stat for this team: goals per game, number one in the NHL, 3.61 goals per game. Maple Leaf people always talk about Stamkos and Kucherov, but like the big thing about this team you have to remember is that a lot of people had we often say the Penguins have Crosby and Malkin,
right,
and they have Stamkos and Kucherov, but really they've got it's the combination of Stamkos, Kucherov, and then the second line of Palat and Point that really make this team crazy good.
It's the depth.
The depth and the underratedness of that second line it can't be overstated. I think. I mean, it's amazing how good they are. And Point, who is was making very little money, right? And is an RFA after this year is going to be a really interesting one for them.
Well, I mean, go ahead, Russ.
No, I wasn't saying anything yet.
Oh, I thought you said. I mean, the guy you're forgetting is Tyler Johnson, and
Tyler Johnson, who's hurt right now, but he's good, but he also I don't see him. I see him as obviously a very good player. I've always liked Tyler Johnson, but at the same time,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the fact that Point has come from, I think he was a 3rd round pick. To being the type of player that he is. I mean, he probably supplants Johnson as the number 2 center. If last year it was 1, 2, 3, Stamkos, then Johnson, then Point. Maybe Point jumps over him this year. Although they may want to keep Point as a 3rd line center because it may be easier to sign him to an extension if his point amounts are not as gaudy as they've been the last couple of years. But teams try not to manage that, but that sometimes is something they want to do. I mean, the thing about this team is, it's the depth. It's not only Stamkos and Kucherov. It's Gord. It's Palat. It's Killorn. It's Point. And then on defense, you add McDonough full time to go along with Hedman and Strawman and the young guy in Sergachev. And, Vasilevsky had a pretty good year overall. I mean, it was a little surprising to me. I thought they were going to go to the Stanley Cup final last year and they ended up losing to the Caps. I don't see any weakness here. I mean, the only problem with them is if somebody gets hurt, and we know that can happen, and that has happened in the past with especially Stamkos.
Well, there are a couple weaknesses that are interesting in my mind, and they come back to some of the numbers here. The goals against per game when they were 13th in the NHL, which is, granted, that's not terrible, but also for a team that's, considered so good and has the best goals per game, that's a little bit rough. But the bigger number, the really, really scary number, is their power play was 3rd and their penalty kill was 27th. So the 27th best penalty kill is not going to win you a Stanley Cup generally. That's like a big issue, right? That's something you have to improve upon. Mm-hmm. Face-offs were 27th as well. I mean, those are, again, really, I mean, and they outshot teams more than anybody else in the NHL. They were built.
They have guys that could improve it on the penalty kill. Interestingly, though, like right now, Adam Ernie's made the team, and that's a guy who is big, has a big shot. He'll play on the 4th line. And Matthew Joseph has great speed, and he's made the team right now.
Yeah.
And that's a guy who, he may not be the strongest, but he's fast, and he had 58 points in the AHL last year, and he dominated at juniors at times. So this is a guy who, could put up some early goals. If they do this, Tampa could be even scarier.
And they seemingly have a bottomless well of prospects. I mean, if it's not Joseph, it's Radish, it's Cal Foote.
Yeah, Cal Foote's playing in the AHL, right? So I mean,
Volkov, their 2nd round pick from a couple years ago. I saw him play playing with the Crunch. He's pretty good. I mean, they're so deep that they one of their better AHL forwards in Matthew Pekka. They just let him walk.
Right, so and remember they traded Hadjek to the Rangers, and he looked great in training camp, and he's in the AHL for them, and that's an offensive defenseman there. So
now, I mean. And the one thing is that this team has an opportunity, not only for this year, but going forward. If you look at their salary structure, you've got Coburn and you've got Strawman and I think one other defenseman who are UFA at the end of next year. It opens up a ton of cap space, and that was the reason why everybody was formulating that there was possible. Oh, Girardi's the other one, that they might be in on Erik Karlsson, because then they could sign Karlsson with all
and
that.
they still might be. I mean, that's another.
They still might be.
That's a real big. I still would put them as the favorites to get Erik Karlsson next year.
Even over San Jose.
Yeah, even over San Jose, I would. I mean, I think that, and Karlsson's saying all the right things in SanOse, and it's way better to be in San Jose for him than to be in Ottawa. But I think San Jose figured when they made that trade, they were giving up enough. They weren't giving up so much that they couldn't actually do this as a rental if they wanted to. I think that's how their mindset was. So, we'll see how it plays out there. It's going to be on. And I think both sides, Karlsson and San Jose, wanted to see how it went. It's not just. I definitely think that Karlsson could have a. If he does drop off for some reason, which no one really expects, but he may. If he does drop off, then I think he ends up in Tampa for sure. If he has a great year, he could still end up in Tampa. I still think Tampa's where he's going to be, because like you said, those 3. I mean, Strawman's they're going to re-sign, right? But the other 2 guys.
Girardi and Coburn are probably gone.
They're gone, and they're trying to trade Coburn right now. I mean, they've been trying to trade Coburn preseason. So,
but they also have to get Sergachev's contract will be up after next year, so that'll be another guy they have to pay.
Right.
I mean, it's really interesting. They have their offense is actually the 7th youngest in the NHL, which is really impressive for having scored the most goals in the NHL last year. But their defense is 28th oldest.
Right.
So their defense is, and that of course will change with Girardi and Coburn going away.
Right.
But that's and they also have the highest number if you add their 2 goalies jersey numbers up of any tandem in the league.
We got one who's 88, so that's
and then the other is 70, so that's 158 for your 2 goalies.
Now, speaking of the goaltending, I mean, when we were talking about like teams that were looking for backups, Louis Domingue with the Lightning. I mean, Louis Domingue a couple years ago I thought played pretty well with Arizona, but he hasn't played well over in recent history, and that might be an area where they may want to upgrade it. Vasilevsky's going to get 60 plus games, but they also want to make sure that they have somebody, because a team fighting for first place in a division, they need their backup goaltender to get them points. And if Domingue slips a little bit, then they may be in the market for a backup goaltender. But in terms of everything else, they're stacked. So I mean, for the predictions out there, and we'll do our predictions on Thursday and Friday. I think that the predictions of Tampa being in first in the Atlantic are pretty accurate.
Russ loves nothing more than I asked him this question. How many first-round draft picks do they have in their final roster here?
I'm going to go 9.
9. What do you think, Mike?
11.
How about 6?
Okay.
Lower than I thought.
You just want to make me look bad. I get it.
No, I know. That's why I said you loved it when I asked this question.
Well, I look worse. I said 11.
Virtually impossible. Well, this is Russ's deal, though. He should be able to get this over anybody else. He should be the best. He should be the best in the world at this, Mike. Understand that. No, but I mean, it's interesting. So you've got, you got to remember Kucherov is not a first-round draft pick. Interesting. He's a second-round draft pick. Their first-round draft picks: Miller, Stamkos, Hedman, McDonough, Coburn, and Sergachev.
Wasn't Callahan a first-round pick, Russ?
No.
Okay.
He was not.
Actually, I don't have Callahan. Callahan's not in their actual roster here. The 20.
But he wasn't a first rounder.
Yep. Okay.
Second rounder.
So that is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Anything else we need to? I mean, we know how good they are.
No, the only thing I would say.
They have a stupid mascot.
They have the lightning bolt. Can I talk about him for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so he's a lightning bug. Actually,
4th rounder for Callahan.
Okay. He's a lightning bug, and this lightning bug. Before I was covering hockey, I was with my then fiance, and I was and we went to Tampa to visit her family.
Did you say then fiance or dead fiance?
Then fiance.
Okay, because otherwise we were going to start an investigation. All right.
We visited her family
Let's get the Senate Judiciary Committee to look at it.
Absolutely. We visited our family in Tampa. I took her to a Flyers game in Tampa Flyers game for fun. And during one of the intermissions, up on the screen, there we were, the two of us in our Flyers jerseys, as the lightning bug dumped popcorn over top of our heads. So I have a personal vendetta over this mascot on Tampa, and I've told him that every time I've seen him. So
the only thing I want to add, and then we can move on to the next team, is the fact that John Cooper last year, there were a few rumors regarding, they disappeared pretty quickly, but there were a few whispers about, how long is he going to be in Tampa? He's been there for 6 years, I believe. And how, certain coaches after a certain amount of time, the message grows stale. And now, now you have a new general manager in Brisebois, and, if they don't live up to the expectation of, at least getting to the Cup final, then I think you'll start to hear those whispers again.
What's interesting, and I along those lines, Mike, is when I was looking at the amount of Canadian writers that predicted Tampa to win the Stanley Cup, it was less this year than the last couple of years. And I honestly don't know if they mean to do it, but I do think that there's a Steve Yzerman bias in Canada.
Could be.
And I don't think it changes. I don't think whoever the GM of this team, I don't think it matters a whiff right now. Like as far as how this team is going to do in the regular season,
no, because they got most of their great players locked up already.
Yeah, they've got everything locked. And as far as how they're going to do this year, they're not. Theirs is not a team that's going to likely make a big trade. I mean, they might, but it's unlikely.
they could make a big ad at the deadline. They have the room. They could do it.
The room, but but whether or not, I just think that it's interesting. I mean, Brisebois is obviously also Canadian, but I think that it's just Yzerman is so beloved in Canada.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't do anything wrong. So that's interesting. All right, going on to talking about beloved in Canada. We're going to move on to everyone's favorite team, a team we never talk about on the show.
No,
Toronto Maple Leafs.
It's sad how little we talk about.
We never discuss them. They are definitely they're definitely undercovered. So we're going to try to correct that today. Here we go. The Maple Leafs finished third in their division with 105 points last year, and that was that landed them Boston in the first round, which is the team they really didn't want to play in the first round. They ended up taking Boston, I think, harder on better than a lot of people thought they would, and win 7 games. Although again losing in horribly dramatic fashion, which is something that they've done to Boston before in 7 games. But this year was a little bit of deja vu for some Leaf fans. Sorry, out there, Mike. But other people as well. Interesting thing about this team, the second best goals per game in the NHL. So Tampa's number 1, Toronto's number 2. Must be something about the T's.
No shot there.
Goals against was 11th, so they were a little bit better than Tampa there. And power play was 10th. Power play was 2nd. Penalty kill 10th. So better numbers here. Much better numbers. Although they were outshot more than they outshot other teams, which is kind of interesting.
Frederik Andersen faced the most shots in the NHL last year.
Yeah, he was very good, and obviously a huge part. And their success, as we will get to, hinges so highly on him staying healthy. It's very similar to Luongo in Florida in that way. The top 12 forwards, 15th oldest, which is kind of surprising. They're right in the middle.
Now, what is Ross? I'm assuming you're looking at roster resource. What do they? Let's see how accurate roster resource is, and let's see what they have as the lines, and I'll tell you what the lines are.
All right, so we got Marleau, Matthews, and Ennis.
That's right.
Hyman, Tavares, and Marner.
Yes.
Levo, Kadri, and Brown.
Yep.
Johnson, Lindholm, and Kapanen.
Bingo. That's correct.
Okay, so they got all 4 lines.
Those are correct.
15th oldest in the NHL.
They might prove you wrong.
That number is pretty interesting. I mean, obviously brought up a little bit by Patrick Marleau's 39 years of age.
Sure.
Because beyond him, there's no one else in their 30s on the top 9. Although Ennis is 29.
Tavares is 28.
28. Kadri's 28. I didn't realize Kadri and Tavares were the same age.
Same draft, yeah.
Almost exactly the same age, by the way. 28.0, both of them. Connor, and Lindholm 27, which is older than I thought Lindholm was too.
Well, yeah, it's first year guy, veteran out of the SHL. The thing is, you're drawing the comparison between Tampa and the Leafs and how close they are. I think that they're mirror images of each other, with the exception of one thing: the Leafs don't have a defenseman as good as Victor Hedman, and the Leafs don't have a second defenseman as good as Ryan McDonagh.
I think I would venture to say that Tampa has maybe if you were to make a 6-paired, if you were to take Tampa and Toronto together and make 6 defensemen, you would probably only have Morgan Riley on that team.
No, I think Gardner would probably be on their bottom pairing. But because then you could limit his exposure in terms of defense, and he could be on a power play situation, maybe. But I think he would make it as a 5th, 6th defenseman on a combined. But yeah, I mean, Riley. I think Riley is as good or better than McDonagh because he's younger and he's more offensive. But McDonagh is a really great veteran player, Hedman is a Norris Trophy winner, and he's one of the best defensemen in the league, and you can't beat that. And that has long been my concern regarding the Maple Leafs, is that their defense. I think, Riley is a really good number 2. Gardner is probably a 3-4 with a lot of problems in terms of his defensive game. They've got a few young guys like Travis Dermott, who are I think can be top 4 defensemen within a year or so. But it's Ron Hainsey, a KHL important Igor Ozaganov, Nikita Zaitsev coming off a bad year.
That doesn't get talked about a lot, right? I was looking at Freddie Andersen, and he actually had a better save percentage at times with Anaheim when he was shorthanded than he has with the Leafs. And you know how we always say, is your goalie your best penalty killer?
Yeah, right.
I don't think he is with the Leafs. I think that's the one shortcoming of him.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing is, and it's happened both years that he has been in Toronto, is he's had very average / bad Octobers. He started the season slow.
Yeah.
From November to March of last year, he arguably was the best goaltender in the NHL. He was phenomenal. Right. And then playing 66 games in consecutive years in March, he started to, he got hurt a little bit, but it wasn't a serious injury. But his save percentage dipped under 900. His goals against went up to 3.5, and he was off and on in the playoffs. So that always, to my mind, means he was playing tired, and he's used in almost every non-back-to-back situation. So that's why the backup goaltender situation was so important. And if Garrett Sparks can play more games and play well, then they're in good shape. And if he can't, they're in deep trouble.
So if Nylander comes up, who's he knocking out of the lineup, Mike?
I think he's probably knocking. I think he's knocking Josh Levo out of the lineup. I think Tyler Ennis has played very well, and I also think that when Nylander signs, he's going to start on the fourth line. That'll be what Babcock does. He'll say, you haven't been here. You haven't earned the right to play on the top line or the second line.
And that's also where he puts all his guys from Scandinavia, apparently, because that's like
no, that's not it.
Johnson, Lindholm, Kapanen are the fourth line right now. So
I mean, they're deservedly the fourth line. I mean, Johnson didn't have a great camp. Kapanen has got all the tools in the world. He's like the Finnish Michael Grabner. He cannot finish. He gets tons of breakaways and can't bury the puck. And until he can improve his offense and be more successful, I think he's going to be a fourth line guy for this team.
Nothing more insulting to a Finn than saying he can't finish, Mike. That's like doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Fair point.
But in true Babcock form, his top 9 forwards are all Canadian except for one, of course. But all nine are Canadian except for Austin Matthews, who
Right. And we have to say, I think they arguably have the best top 3 centers in the league with Tavares, Matthews, and Kadri. Their power play, and this is a bit of concern, and we'll see how it manifests itself into the season. Their power play that was second in the league, like you said, it lost Van Riemsdyk and it lost Bozak, and they replaced them with Tavares and Matthews, which means that the top 3 centers on the team are all on the top power play. And even Babcock admitted it's sort of been awkward because they bring the second power play out there for maybe 20 seconds, and then you have to go back to a regular shift, and all 3 centers are still tired from the power play. So
it's not going to last more than 2 weeks.
You have to put on your fourth line, and then basically a team can say, okay, let's put Sidney Crosby out there right after the penalty because he's going to be matched up against the fourth line center. That's
you need somebody who's going to get dirty pucks, and that's Kadri's job, right? So that's your issue. You've got to have somebody, and whether that's going to be, who else would that be? Connor Brown, or I mean, I don't know.
What in terms of what?
In terms of what Van Riemsdyk did was go to the net and crash.
Yeah, but they're playing Tavares in front of the net. Tavares requested.
Well, Tavares is great in front of the net. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Kadri's playing the slot. He's playing right up the middle. So, and Matthews is playing on the half board. So, I mean, I had thought they were going to put somebody like Zach Hyman, and that might be what they end up doing, Russ, is putting a guy like Zach Hyman or a guy like Levo, if he's in the lineup, a bigger guy or a guy who likes to mix it up in front of the net and take one of those centers off and put him on the second power play.
Yeah, it'll eventually happen.
Levo sells cartoon balloons in town, by the way. All right.
So bad.
Yeah.
So bad. Tavares makes more money than all the other forwards on the top 9 except combined if you take Marlowe. That's pretty good. I like that. It's a good number there.
Except Tavares has 0 regular season points for the Leafs, so he doesn't factor in at all.
He's got nothing.
Wait until tomorrow, Russ. He'll have at least a couple probably.
And 2025 is coming quickly. You got to watch out. He's going to be UFA before he all right.
Well, by 2025, the Leafs will have at least won it 2 or 3 times already. So
the one thing that's kind of interesting about the Leafs, I mean, obviously they've got some huge decisions to make this offseason coming up.
Yes. And I love the phraseology. I mentioned it yesterday of Hockey Buzz's friend Brian Burke on Sportsnet, where he basically said that the Leafs should let William Nylander rot until he comes to their number, and that's what they're going to probably let him do. There's been no compromise. He will not be in the lineup tomorrow. They're going into the season. The Leafs are probably want to get him on a long-term deal in like the low 6s, and he apparently wants over 7. and that's not going to fly, especially with Marner and Matthews and Gardner up next year. They're going to need they want to set the agenda of everybody has to take less for us to stick together, and if they don't, then either he signs a bridge or they sign him and then they end up trading him eventually, and that's very possible.
Yeah, it is very possible. I personally think that they have to trade him for a defenseman. I think that really is, to me.
I think eventually they will act, but they're not going to do it under the gun because they won't get as much value. His value is greatest if they get him signed to an economical long-term contract. If he's making, say, $6 million and he has a good year, then teams will be salivating over him. But if he's on a bridge deal and he's looking for a big payday in 2 years and it's not worth their while, they're not going to give up a young defenseman or a defenseman under contract.
So let's address the elephant in the room here is, because they haven't been able to, the Leafs haven't been able to nab that top defenseman. Mm-hmm. If they don't, by the trading deadline, they will probably give Jake Gardner the contract he's looking for because they won't have a choice.
Well, it depends on what he's looking for.
Jake Gardner, sorry. You got a drink, sorry.
Yeah, no. But that's the thing, Russ. You know, somebody asked him at training camp, will you take a hometown discount? And I think he legitimately wants to stay in Toronto. Yeah. But the thing is, based on what defensemen are getting paid right now,
I can't imagine why he wouldn't want to leave. I can't imagine why he'd want to leave Toronto. People have been so nice to him over the years.
Well, no, I mean, but it's the team and it's the ability, it's the opportunity to score like he's been scoring. I mean, he's not. I don't think he'll be a 50-point defenseman anywhere else because his defensive liabilities will not allow him to play as much in other places.
His worth to that team is still pretty great.
Oh yeah.
And if they're under the gun and can't find that other defenseman, they can't afford to just let him walk through the season.
They can't let him walk for nothing. So, and I have that bet with Kevin that he won't be traded. So, I mean, he thinks he won't be traded. I think there's a possibility he will still, but I mean, it all depends on what he's willing to take. If he's willing to take less than $6 million a year, then they'll sign him because they'll think it's cost effective. If he's expecting to make $7 million, if he's trying to make Shattenkirk money, see ya. It's gone.
Yeah, and I think that's what he's trying to do.
But the thing is, he won't be, even if you say he's gone, he won't be gone if they haven't added a big name by that time, whether they're negotiating in June or they even open it up in the season.
Well, I mean, with the open cap space that they have before the deadline this year, and right now it's over $12 million, and, you know, it'll be less when they sign Nylander, they're going to get a defenseman at the deadline. It's just a question of who.
I mean, you say that, but
I know. I keep saying it. I continue to say that.
I know.
I'm not.
You're right. I mean, I think you're right, but that, you know,
not a guarantee. It's what they want to do, but it's
not. A blog coming out next week, which is something I've been working on for a while, which is the year preview of rumors, where I've tried to go through and chase some of these things down, just hugely projecting out front. And I did my wacky predictions. We'll get to that next week as well, but I did that yesterday. I had some really good ones in there for you guys that you guys really know will mock me about. But this I agree. I mean, I think there's a better chance they get it this year than ever before. There's obviously a lot at stake, but the amount of UFAs they have that are playing, I mean, RFAs they have that are playing for them right now, that are going to be RFAs at the end of this year, and in the Nylander situation next year,
right?
Is astonishing.
Matthews.
Yeah, I mean, forget about Matthews. Obviously, Matthews is not going anywhere, right? But
that's the guarantee.
But after that, you got Levo, who sells cartoon balloons in town. You got Johnson, Lindholm, and Kapanen. You have Marner.
I don't think those guys are problems because I think they'll sign them to they'll not arbitration, but they'll sign them to, they'll make qualifying offers and they'll get them on 1 or 2 year deals. Lindholm they just added this year, so I don't think that's a problem. Marner is going to be the problem, especially based on what Nylander gets. If Nylander, and then this is the funny thing, Nylander's camp is basically negotiating against what they think Marner is going to get, and they can't do that because honestly, if you look at the body of work, Marner has been the better player in 2 years than Nylander has, and that's the, if Nylander makes $6.5 million, Marner's going to ask for 8, and he was the leading goal scorer or leading point getter last year and their best player in the playoffs. And this year he's playing with Tavares, and everybody's expecting him to get 80 to 85 points. So he's going to walk into the last year of his ELC and then into a restricted free agency situation where he's going to be expecting more money, and he's going to get it, but he's not going to get $10 million.
He's not signing with them. I mean, that's why that's I mean, they can't do it because, I mean, when you look at the way this works out, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, they're getting by this year because they have a fourth line that makes just over $2 million combined. Mm-hmm. That's nuts. I mean, I think that is the cheapest line in the NHL right now. I mean, I was when I've been going through this. I mean, Johnson, Lindholm, and Kapanen.
But they have 3 or 4 forwards down in the American Hockey League that can probably by next year will be ready to play that fourth line role. Guys like Carl Grunstrom, guys like Jeremy Bracco, who can step into the NHL. Mason Marchment, who's been a much improved player. Trevor Moore. These guys will, and they may end up in that trade for a defenseman, have to trade a Kapanen or a Janssen because they know they're going to get a payday. So, this roster is going to be a evolving situation because of what you just said.
And that's a tough spot to be in because they're in the prime spot where if they were to win a Stanley Cup this year with this roster, they'd be in trouble. Like, you know what I mean? And because
they'll cross that bridge when they come to it.
I mean, it would be wonderful. And I know you don't want them to win a Stanley Cup. I know you'd rather them keep.
Oh yeah, that would be terrible for me.
We've talked about, you don't love winning. But I think that this is we'll see.
Yeah. Vancouver Canucks.
The Vancouver Canucks. All right. From one side of Canada to the other, 2 cities that have long gotten along. Vancouver and Toronto.
Yes, they love each other.
They do. Goals per game. This is a tough year for Vancouver last year. I think Russ thought they'd be better than this. I was going through some of our predictions last year. Russ was pretty high on Vancouver last year.
Last year I was a little higher on them, but now, there's no way to be high on them.
Yeah, goals per game, they were 26th. The goals against per game, they were 26th. So that's not good. But the weird thing, but a power play that was 9th in the NHL, although the Sedins are gone. So, there's that.
But there's still offensive talent there.
They still have offensive talent, no question about it. They are, as far as the 20-man roster go, they're 10th youngest. So they're young. I mean, they're not. And their forwards are 11th. I mean, they have some definite prospects. And I'm a huge fan of Elias Pettersson, and I'm on the bandwagon fully that he's going to win Calder. And I even wrote in one of my wacky predictions last year is he would get 75% of the points that both Sedins got last year combined, which would put Pettersson somewhere around 75 points this year, which would be pretty impressive.
It'd be very impressive, and it is possible.
So
because he's going to get a lot of playing time. I mean, no doubt.
They get a lot of playing time. They obviously their numbers. They're a team that just had struggled all over the map last year. Shooting percentage really bad. Save percentage really bad.
Well, where their olders on the blue line? I mean, Tannen, Edler, Gudbranson. Edler is a UFA at the end of this year. I know that Pierre LeBrun in a column yesterday for The Athletic, he listed like 10 players who he thought were likely to be traded, and Edler was on the list. And I think that makes sense because he's always blocked trades with his no trade clause. But as a UFA, maybe he decides he'll go somewhere this year. But they have a lot of the young forwards. They have the more experienced defense. They could move out on Edler, move out of Tanev if they, because I think they've embraced the rebuild finally, Russ. I think they've come to the realization, even though they were, I think, mildly dumb by signing a guy, Beagle and Roussel and these veteran guys.
They have some veterans with them, so it's fine. Again, what I do like is the fact that they sent Gagne down so Leipzig and Goldobin can get real playing time because, both those guys, I mean, Leipzig, we know, he's got a great shot. He
speedster too. Unbelievable speed.
Yeah, so he could really be something. And Goldobin is a guy that has great toughness besides a scoring touch. And so these are guys that could really do something for them, and they've acquired them in deals. And this is, if both these guys were to have good seasons, this would be a massively successful season because we know Pettersson's going to have a good season. This would be a very successful season for Vancouver because a lot of times people had ripped Jim Benning because he didn't do enough in trades or get enough in trades, and this would show that he kind of is.
Yeah, and you've got younger guys like Dahlin who eventually will come up.
Yeah. Even Goldobin had 14 points in 38 games for Vancouver last year, and he was more than a point a game in the AHL. So I'm looking for good things out of him at 22.
And I think eventually you're going to see Demko in goal, because right now they're going with Markstrom and Nielsen, and they've got Nielsen's got a year left in his contract. Markstrom's got 2, so they're not going to rush Demko. They're going to let him play in the AHL, but they do have young players. So this is you see the picture here. Maybe in 2 or 3 years this is a really good team, but right now I think more than anything Benning is going to have to clear out some of the deadwood in terms of salary. Guys that he signed, like Gagne, like Louis Eriksson, clear them out and bring up his youngsters, and be bad for a year or two. Let the young kids get experience. Be bad. Be in the Jack Hughes sweepstakes. Quinn Hughes comes up next year probably. I mean, I'm for once I'm bullish on the Canucks because they seem to finally embraced what they needed to do for about 3 years.
Well, the weird thing about them is, and along those lines, Mike, what you're saying is that I've been doing this homegrown thing. So in their 20, according to where they're projected right now, the 20 that they're going with, how many homegrown players do you think?
In their top 20? Well, I mean, right now they're in the midst of the transition. So I mean,
right.
I can I mean, Ericsson's not, Sutter, Barchi, Beagle, Granlund. I mean, very few of them are.
Yeah, no, it's amazingly. I mean, there's 5 of them. 5 of the 20.
Okay. I was close.
Yeah, 5 of the 20 came up through their system, and all the rest have been picked up via trade or free agency. So that's the biggest number we've seen so far in that. So this is that. Now the interesting thing is the 5 that are there, okay, are relatively recent first round draft picks, like Horvat and Besser and Pedersen. Those are all, and Virtanen, right? So Virtanen. So you get he's not Finnish, Virtanen. So yeah, I mean those are, so when you look at the guys that they have drafted in recent first round draft picks are a big part of this team. A lot of them. So, but as far as if you go back to I was trying to find the guy that was drafted. Okay, it's obviously there's only one guy, and that would be Edler, right? Who goes back pretty far, that they actually drafted on their team.
I think he was a Nonis or a Gillis pick.
Yeah,
he's a 2004 pick. Okay, but besides that, everybody is 2012 or sooner.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not Tanev. Wasn't Tanev a free agent?
Tanev was signed out of the NCAA.
Yeah, he was a free agent. Yeah,
yeah. Which again, that's Bennett's specialty. All
right, so that is 6th. All right, so I got I'm going to give him one more. So I forgot about that. Yeah, there's 6 because Stetcher was also signed out of the NCAA, right? So
one more important thing. So Anders Nielsen, he has really become a champion for the LGBT community in Vancouver, and I think he marched in the Pride Parade, and he really, he had a big, powerful statement last year. It actually said if he grew up gay in Sweden with the homophobic culture in hockey, he would have quit hockey. So I think it's great that someone like him, and people might say, oh, he's a backup goalie, he doesn't have any impact. He does. If you watch him on Instagram, he really does have an impact.
So how many openly gay players are there in the NHL? It's
a low number.
It's a really low number. So I'm not even saying, is Anders Nielsen openly gay, or is he just saying?
No, he's married.
Right. He's not. I'm sorry, because someone.
No, it's okay, but he just got married. Yeah.
Said he grew up gay, so I was confused there. If he grew up gay. My bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's funny. I really don't know do we have an openly gay player in the NHL?
I thought there was one. Hold on.
I don't think so.
Maybe not.
And that's, honestly, that's a sad state of affairs. I mean, yeah. I don't think it really matters much anymore, especially with the embracing of the. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there would be any kind of negative repercussions at all.
So it's amazing that we don't have any.
We had the Michael Sam situation in the NFL, and that the thing was that it was great that he proclaimed what happened. He was drafted, but he wasn't a good enough player. What I'm saying? It's like, I mean, if it was a first round draft pick, a guy who's going to be in the NFL, and I'm not saying, somebody who's prominent, it doesn't matter anymore. I don't think there's a stigma to it anymore. And I
No,
just
there definitely shouldn't be, and
There shouldn't be, and
I don't think there is. I think in this society
I think there is, Mike. I mean, I'm telling you. I mean, I think that there is, because it might not, at least until somebody actually comes out that way.
I can only speak for myself. I wouldn't care.
No, and I think most people and most players wouldn't care, but yet none have. So that tells you something.
I guess at some point it will occur, and I think the timing's right. I think it's going to happen.
Okay, here's an interesting little note before, and it's Vancouver related as well. Rick Dallowall, who covers the Canucks, he's hearing that after Sam Gagner cleared waivers, the Canucks might help him out and assign him to an AHL team closer to his family, and his family is in Toronto, and that might be the Marlies.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, I thought that was already out there. Sorry about that. Yeah, the Marlies definitely. I heard, and the other team is there's another team too that I heard Marlies.
It could be Belleville Senators.
Yeah, right.
So that that's possible, or Rochester with the Amerks is not too far away from Toronto. But yeah, that would be great, because they have a lot of young forwards, and he's a veteran guy, and I think he's still an NHLer. So it could be a temporary situation until he gets traded someplace. But that would be good.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. All right. Okay. So tomorrow
we will preview Vegas, Winnipeg, and Washington.
Well, that'll finish off the league.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start doing our predictions too. So
yeah, we're going to do over-unders too. We have like the Bodog or Bovada usually has an over-under points thing. So we'll pick like five teams of our own choosing. And what will we put on stake here? Some cookies, or what?
We got to go back to last year's too. I want to go back to last year's prediction.
Nobody's going back. Like we always say this, we are the worst at the bookkeeping. Nobody goes back. Nobody.
I might, because that was pretty good last year. So that's why I might actually.
I'll dig out the.
I'll only do it because I only want to do it because I think I was the best one last year.
Right. That's yours. Motivation. We know that.
Anyway,
what's the expression? Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
That has never been said about me, Mike. I've never heard that one at all.
Oh, no, never.
No, it's crazy. Never. All right. So, yeah. Great.
I am being asked about the Jack Hughes sweepstakes, and I really do think right now the Red Wings are the leader in the clubhouse. I do.
Yeah.
There's 5 teams that have a chance, but I think they're the leader.
I think the Red Wings are too. I'm with you on that one. I think, the Red Wings were my team that I put in last place in the Atlantic, just as a little preview. But
I think it is the Ottawa Senators.
Okay.
We'll get into that. Getting a lot of heat. So right now, my blog that's currently up is my Atlantic predictions. You guys try not to look at them if you have. You may have already, but if you
I won't look at them.
Because it will be more fun during the show to actually go through it. Because I'm getting a lot of heat for my predictions being a little bit crazy in the Atlantic. This afternoon, I'm going to be doing the Pacific because I figure I should do both oceans. Tomorrow morning, I will do the Metro, and then tomorrow afternoon, I'll do the Central. So I'll have all my picks out before the season starts, because otherwise I would get slayed for it. But that when you're doing podcasting, it doesn't matter. So we're gonna wait and do it. But
Are we gonna do preseason awards? Because people are asking me about
we should definitely do that.
Ty Ratty won the Rocket Richard
preseason awards. I don't think so. I mean,
or should we say he won the Pocket Rocket Richard? Because I
think we could do who we think. When you said that, I was thinking you were talking about who's going to win the awards.
No. Preseason, who's going to win the Calder? Who's going to win?
Well, the Vezina Trophy goes to what's his name, who just got hurt in Carolina. He was amazing.
Darling
had an unbelievable preseason. Did you see that?
No, but we're talking about for the regular season, but we say it before the season starts. Is my point.
Yes.
So we'll do that too. All right.
We'd like to thank everybody for watching. You can go to patreon.com/hockey to support the show, which is really appreciated because, we are working to pay for things around here. We work hard and we do this every day as much as possible, especially these guys. So do go help them out. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.